When you think of a big strategic plan, you probably picture a bunch of experts in a boardroom, right? Well, today we're diving into something totally different. This is a national health plan for Malaysia that was built from the ground up, starting not with policies, but with actual people. It's this incredible story about how individual voices can come together to create a real roadmap for change. Okay, so at the very heart of this whole thing is this number, 69. And no, it's not some random statistic or a line item in a budget. This number, well, it represents people. So you're probably wondering, what in the world does 609 have to do with the future of health in Malaysia? Honestly, everything. It's the key that unlocks this totally new way of thinking about one of the country's biggest health challenges, what we call non-communicable diseases, or NCDs. We're talking about chronic conditions like diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. All right, so to really get what this plan is all about, we have to start with the people it was actually built for. Let's talk about the individuals all across Malaysia who are living with these conditions day in and day out. They're facing these really tough everyday challenges, and not just with their health, but with the whole system. So where did they start? Well, it all kicked off with these incredibly powerful, direct asks coming straight from the community. Things as basic and as fundamental as this one, to be treated with respect and dignity. Think about that. That's not a recommendation from some consultant in a suit. That's a human plea. And that simple idea, along with hundreds of others just like it, became the absolute foundation for this entire strategy. So the big question is, how do you even begin to take hundreds of personal stories and experiences and turn them into a single, cohesive national strategy? Well, the answer is, you don't start in a boardroom. You start right there, in the community. Let's take a look at how they flipped the traditional process completely on its head. Okay, so here's how it worked. First, they held these really open and honest community conversations. Then, to make sure they were hearing from a wide range of people, they sent out a broader survey. And that's how they reached that magic number, 609 people living with NCDs. All of their collective asks were then brought to the table in roundtable discussions with patient organizations who helped figure out what was most important. And only after all of that did they even start drafting the plan. It's the definition of a bottom-up approach. So after all that listening, what did they come up with? Well, they took all those hundreds of asks and organized them into this really clear, logical structure. It's all built around 4 main pillars of action. And these 4 pillars, they're the absolute core of the entire plan. I actually love how they break this down. It makes it super easy to understand. Think of it like this. The pillars are the what. These are the 4 big things they want to achieve. The channels, on the other hand, are the how. The tools they're going to use to get there. Things like lobbying, education, and getting the community organized. It's a really smart way to separate the destination from the journey. All right, let's dive into the first pillar, human rights and social justice. And right away, you can see this is about so much more than just healthcare. This is about fairness. It's all grounded in this core belief that good health is a fundamental right, not some kind of privilege. And that means nobody, absolutely nobody, should face discrimination because of their health. And here's a perfect example of what that looks like in the real world. One of the key goals here is to tackle a huge, frustrating problem. People with NCDs getting denied private health insurance or getting slapped with crazy high premiums. This pillar says, nope, that's not okay, and aims to change those policies for good. Okay, moving on to pillar 2, prevention. Now this one's got a really smart 2-pronged approach. On one hand, it's about stopping people from getting NCDs in the first place. But just as important, it's also about preventing things from getting worse for people who are already living with a condition. So how are they going to do that? Well, a huge part of this pillar is about one word, accountability. It's basically saying, hey, it's not enough to just have a national strategy on paper. You've got to be able to measure it to see if it's actually working. So this pillar is all about putting a strong system in place to track progress and, crucially, to report on it openly. All right, pillar number 3 takes us to treatment, care, and support. This is all about making the actual experience of getting healthcare better. The focus here is on making sure the care you get is top-notch, sustainable, and, this is the big one, delivered with patients as partners, not just something that's done to them. And here is just a fantastic example of how they're making that partnership a reality. A core goal is to create ways of measuring quality and performance that are actually driven by patients themselves. So what does that mean? It means the success of the healthcare system gets measured by what actually matters to the people it serves. It sounds simple, but that is a massive shift in thinking. And that brings us to the fourth and final pillar, meaningful involvement. And honestly, this one kind of ties everything else together. It's all about making sure that the people who have actually lived it, the patients, aren't just an afterthought. It's about making sure they have a real seat at the table when decisions are being made that affect their lives. We're talking from the doctor's office all the way up to the highest levels of government. And again, this isn't just some vague, feel-good idea. It's a solid action plan. For example, one of the key strategies is to get proactive with politicians. They're literally mapping out key members of parliament and setting up regular meetings to bring the community's needs directly to the people in power. That's how you make change happen. So, okay, we've got the what, the pillars, we've got the how, the channels. But we all know a plan is only as good as its execution, right? This document isn't meant to just collect dust on a shelf. It's a living, breathing roadmap with a really clear system to make sure things actually get done. And here's how they're going to stay on track. First off, they're setting up dedicated committees for each focus area to drive the work forward. Second, they'll be doing reviews every 6 months to see what's working and what isn't, and to make changes on the fly. And third, and this part is so important, they're committing to an annual public report card, total transparency so everyone can see how they're doing. When you really look at it, this plan is so much more than just a list of strategies. It's a really powerful vision. It's a serious commitment. It's a promise that was built on the voices of those 609 people, all for a healthier future for every single Malaysian. And it's not just talk. This commitment is backed by a clear 3-year timeline. The whole plan maps out specific goals and actions over that period. It's all designed to create this steady, focused push that leads to real, lasting change. There's a quote from the document itself that I think just says it all perfectly. It is a document about us, built by us, for us. It is our promise for a better future. I mean, wow, that just perfectly captures the entire spirit of this thing, doesn't it? It's just this powerful declaration of ownership and really of hope. And so that really leaves us with one final and I think really important question. This entire plan shows a totally new way forward, a path where everyone's voice matters. So the question it asks all of us is, what role can you play in building this better future?